Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news coming out of Ukraine, Russia, India, Pakistan, and the rest of the world. But by far our biggest piece of news of the day is coming out of Germany, as we have gotten word today that the German government has threatened Putin with brand new sanctions on the Russian Federation unless he agrees to a Ukraine ceasefire today, not on Thursday when the peace talks happen, but today on Monday, May the 12th, Putin has to agree to a ceasefire or Germany is going to slap massive sanctions on the Russian Federation to bring the economy to its knees. A very big ultimatum that we are hearing today from Germany. We've also gotten big word as well that Putin is preparing to visit Iran in person to strengthen that alliance between Iran and Russia to continue fighting the war against Ukraine. And also on another front, we are getting word that Putin is threatening to seize property of Russian civilians and also actively seizing it to fund the war effort right now as we speak. We also have big news coming out of India and Pakistan of more drone attacks despite claims of a ceasefire between the two countries. And also, we've gotten official word from Poland that they have officially closed the Russian consulate on their territory as a result of proving a connection between a supermarket attack last year and the Russian FSB. But jumping into our first post of the day, this one goes to Disclosed TV. And this is by far our biggest story of the day. Right now we are getting word that Germany's new government issued an ultimatum today to Russia to either accept a ceasefire agreement right now or suffer brand new sanctions on the Russian Federation. And this is a very big shift, by the way, because the big deal is that coming up on Thursday, there will be peace talks allegedly between Zelensky and Putin directly in Istanbul and Turkey, and that is a very big announcement. But of course, we generally know that based on the statements Putin's made so far, he is not maybe even going to show up to these talks. And also, even if he shows up, it may not be productive whatsoever, because if he won't even agree to a ceasefire, then why would he agree to end the war on Thursday at these peace talks? So of course, Germany's detecting that insincerity by Putin, and they're already threatening him with sanctions ahead of time to try to preempt that action from taking place. So big, bold move by Germany today, and we are seeing that right here. But with that, we're moving into our next post, and this one goes to Military News Ukraine, and we also got some threats coming from the French side toward the Russian Federation, and we learn right here what they said in this post. And we can see right here that the French President Macron said to Putin that Moscow has a deadline until the evening to decide on a ceasefire, and the French president also said that he will hold talks with Zelensky and European leaders because the ceasefire proposal is valid only until tonight, and either the Russian Federation is serious and wants peace, or it is not serious and we must impose more sanctions immediately, said the French President Macron. So it sounds like he is echoing the statements of Germany and also echoing the statements of the UK as well. So we have a triad here, the French, the UK, and also Germany ganging up to basically put sanctions on Russia early before the ceasefire talks or the peace talks even take place on Thursday. So honestly, I would say that's a good move. I don't foresee really anything positive coming out of Thursday's peace talks. And once again, it is another strategy by Putin, in my opinion, to simply vie for more time to simply rebuild his forces. So this appears to be a good move, and it looks like all three of those countries are moving together, lock and step. But moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Christopher Miller. And so far, the only country which is not really lock and step with a sanctions plan by Germany, the UK, and France is the United States. And right now we're hearing that the US president was asked whether he'd hit Russia with new sanctions if Putin does not agree with Ukraine to a ceasefire this week. And he said, quote unquote, "I have a feeling they're going to agree. I have a feeling. Let's see what's going to happen." So of course, it looks like we're taking sort of a middle road approach here, not really going one side or the other, and not threatening sanctions like the other three countries are doing. So the United States is sort of taking a step back instead of jumping right into the fire, and it seems like we're taking somewhat of a neutral, sort of weak approach to this entire situation versus the other countries. So quite interesting to see, but that is pretty much status quo at this point, and I would say, generally speaking, there's no hope in hell of these Thursday peace talks having any progress. If Putin will not agree to a ceasefire, like I just said, then he will not agree to peace. So I really would say the chances of him agreeing to a ceasefire is probably like 5%, or any type of peace whatsoever is probably very low. But of course, I could be proven wrong, but I highly doubt that Putin's even going to show up, and if he does, he's not even going to really talk in good faith, because he never has. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Apex News. And even though Putin can't formally commit to actually showing up to the Istanbul peace talks, he can formally commit at the exact same time to visiting Iran, because today we've gotten word from Apex News that Iran is preparing for a visit by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, reports Reuters, and Putin's trip to Tehran is currently being worked out and preparations are underway, according to an Iranian government spokesperson telling Russian state media. So even though he can actually work out a visit to go to Iran, apparently he can't work out a visit to go to Istanbul, because we haven't heard any formal public acknowledgement of him planning a visit to Istanbul. But right here we do see that he is planning a visit to Iran, on the contrary, at the exact same time. So once again, this is more evidence of game playing by Putin's regime, and that's to be expected. But he is apparently going to show up to Iran at some point to strengthen the alliance between those two countries, which of course is in furtherance of the war. It's not stopping it, it's trying to make the war go on longer. So we see that right there. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to War Translated. Also, on another front of news, Putin is so desperate to stop the war, he started stealing stealing all the property from the places where he's currently occupying inside of Ukraine and also from his own people. And today we're learning in this post from More Translated that in the Russian-occupied Mariupol region, locals are begging Putin to stop the so-called DNR authorities from seizing their property, claiming they're being stripped of literally everything, and they say the leadership is lying to Putin in reports, and that's not surprising whatsoever. So right now, I'll save you the suffering of having to watch the video of the lady complaining about it, but of course, the Russians, known for going in places, taking them over, and then stealing the property, are now stealing the property. So that's not shocking whatsoever, but not only is he stealing property out of the occupied regions of Ukraine, but also he's trying to steal property from his own people, and we learned that here in our next post, which goes to Null Reports. And in this post, we can see the Kremlin is drafting a law to seize property from Russians abroad who criticize the regime, and under the new bill, crimes against Russia's interests could lead to confiscation even beyond Russia's borders. So if you look at that at face value, it looks like Russia is simply trying to silence dissent, but if you look at it a little bit deeper than that, what this really is more proof that Russia is having significant and really bad financial difficulties due to the very expensive cost of the war in Ukraine. So this is a new way to basically generate income, the way I see it, and it's more proof that Russia is really about to fall on hard times if the war keeps going indefinitely. But that is the way I read into it, but let me know down in the comments below if you disagree. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Max24. And we also did get word of an attack by Ukraine on Russia today, because today at about 5 a.m., a UAV crashed on the territory of Kamensky chemical plant in the Rostov region of Russia, and the Kamensky plant produces rocket fuel for Russian MLRS and also the Iskander missiles. So this is a photo of the facility right here. We don't have a video showing you it actually getting hit by the UAV, but as you can see, there's also no drone signs up around the building, but it looks like Ukraine didn't really obey that sign, of course, because it is a war and a war is on, but it looks like the chemical plant was hit, and that will of course affect the rocket fuel supply for these Russian missiles and other weaponry as well. So a very good hit by Ukraine. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Apex News. And moving away from our Russia-Ukraine news and onto our India and Pakistan situation, because that one is once again kicking off yet again. We've heard today a statement from the US president commenting on the situation between those two countries. And we've learned today that the US president said Monday that US intervention prevented a quote-unquote bad nuclear war between India and Pakistan, and he says that the United States stopped a nuclear conflict, and I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed, so I'm very proud of that. But the only problem with that is the war between India and Pakistan is still ongoing, and even though there were talks of a ceasefire, neither side is really obeying the ceasefire right now. Pakistan violated it within 4 hours, so the nuclear threat is still present. It has not disappeared all of a sudden. So I would say the statement here was a little bit premature, a little bit too early, because the war is still going on and there's still the threat of using nukes by either side. So it's still there. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Fightux News. And speaking of the war still going on, we've gotten reports this morning that indicate that Indian air defense systems have been activated in Samba, Jammu, and Kashmir, which are the contested regions, and potentially other areas near the border with Pakistan amid reports of drone incursions. And the situation remains fluid despite the alleged ceasefire, and it's not clear yet what is going on. But I think we have gotten some more clarity since this post was made by Fightux that apparently things are getting even more out of control today between those two countries, and the peace is looking very, very unlikely right now. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Inside Geopolitics. And we then got word that Indian anti-aircraft guns were activated apparently above Amritsar, and the sirens were also heard in Amritsar, and they were being sounded, and at least 3 flights to that city were canceled. So that is a big sign right there that apparently India was being attacked by Pakistan because their anti-aircraft guns were active, and we did get reports that drones were allegedly flying around the skies of India from the Pakistani side. So we were hearing that, but we also got in our next post here, which goes to World Source News 24/7, more evidence of a Pakistan drone presence in Samba and also Jammu and Kashmir. So let's take a look at our video here and see what we can spot in the skies above the contested regions. So yep, that does appear to be anti-aircraft fire, allegedly coming from the Indian side toward Pakistani drones over their airspace, and we can see right here, they are clearly firing on something, and they wouldn't be firing it just for the hell of it, so clearly they're defending their skies, and we can see that right here on the footage. But that is just one piece of evidence we have right here, that the Pakistani drones are apparently flying right back into India's airspace. But moving on to our next post here, this one also goes to World Source News 24/7, and we get more reports of blasts being reported near Jalandhar, Punjab, and other regions inside of India, while the Indian forces still actively counter Pakistani drones that we just saw in the last video. So let's take a look at this one and see what we can spot. So yeah, that does appear to be some anti-aircraft fire or something of that effect on the Indian side toward the sky here. and you can hear a lot of shouting and yelling in the background. But as you can see right here, there's clearly engagements happening above the skies of India, and this is not simply make-believe, even though a lot of people would like to just write this off as fake. This is what's happening over the skies of India right now. So the ceasefire is not really working that well, and even though people are trying to say that, oh, the war's over, it's all over, it's really not over, because they're still firing at each other, and they're also trying to defend the Indian skies. So it's clearly still going on, and we can see that between our video evidence right there. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to War Translated. And in our last post here of the day, we have very big news coming out of Poland, that Poland has proven the involvement of Russian intelligence services in the sabotage by arson of the Mariwilska 44 shopping center in Warsaw that happened last year, and therefore the Russian Consulate General in Krakow is being closed. So that's a very big announcement. The Russian consulate in Krakow is being closed permanently by the Polish government as a result of proving the link between the FSB and the shopping center fire which took place last year, which we actually did cover on our video and our stream last year, and we did see that live. So it was a very big fire, by the way. Here's a picture of it, and it was a very large one. This was apparently an arson by two individuals recruited by the Russian FSB to go in and cause this havoc right here. And once again, there are probably so many instances of this happening globally that we're simply not aware of and not connecting the dots between the FSB and the incident itself. This is probably just a common occurrence at this point, because we've seen fires breaking out all over NATO countries, also military bases being attacked by unknown assailants. It's just all kinds of chaos everywhere, and of course, that is the Russian FSB playbook to go around doing things like that. It's called hybrid warfare, and we're seeing that right here. It's been proven by Poland that that was an FSB involvement in this attack on the shopping center. So very big news on that front. But with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news of the video. So before you go, smack the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't. And also, if you watched the video to this point, go down below and put the word Poland in the comments to let us know you watched to this point. And also, thank you all for the kind words about the channel. We do see them in the comments, and we appreciate those very much. And also, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link to Patreon is down below in the description, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership and support the channel that way, which is a very big help. And once again, like we always say, big shout out to our Patreon supporters for helping to make the videos and the channel possible, and we do sincerely appreciate that very much. But with that, folks, we'll be back with you again on 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, on Tuesday night, for the nightly War News stream. Of course, 10 p.m. Eastern is the time, like usual, and we will see you all then. But for now, bye-bye for now.